Hey guys, Paul here. I'm sat with Marco Massarutto from Kunos and we're at Monza, the Temple of Speed. We've had a little press conference about Assetto Corsa Competizione. Of course, starting tomorrow, the SRO eSport GT Series starts. And we're going to have a little word with Marco about ACC up to this point and going forward. So, Marco, welcome.
Thank you very much. Hello to all the guys and the community in the RaceDepartment. Thank you very much for your huge support you are giving us in making the simulation. Yeah, Stefan will kill me for that, but he's right, because actually it's a simulation. As we explained today in the press conference, where I never told about ACC like a game, Stefan. We explain how we are close with the real counterpart. That is very important to us because after the huge success of AC1, it was a really challenge to us to think about, okay, what do we do now? And we believe that working on a specific series like the SRO Blancpain GT series was really a good way to keep strong the AC brand, staying focused on a specific series that allowed us to work specifically on one kind of cars, one kind of aerodynamics, tires, and so on. And I think that we can see the result of this kind of approach. And staying here in Monza, where we are here in the stage, and just on our right there is the real track with the pit box, so that also the guests, the journalists, and the people can play the simulation and look at that, and they can see the real thing. Is very important to us to let them understand that we are not kidding, we are not joking, and I think that they get the same kind of feeling. We are very proud to be here in the Temple of Speed in Monza. That is one of the most iconic tracks ever. And we brought here the current version in development of the AC Competizione, so showing more cars and tracks than the public version out there on Steam, so that also you can have a wider idea about what you can expect in the final version. We believe that is also important for our community to understand that until now, having one car and one track per month, they can't have the real idea of what does mean to have the overall and the final picture of the game, the simulation in the very few weeks, because it's completely changed the way how Assetto Corsa Competizione behaves today.
Because obviously it has been an early access program, it's been an interesting journey from a sim racer's point of view, getting access to new bits of content and getting access to new features and stuff. And you are getting close to version 1 release, as you've mentioned. Can we talk about the release date?
You are under embargo, yeah?
Yeah, we're under embargo now, okay, so that will come later, people, that will come later. But has it been difficult for you guys to maintain a schedule and because it's obviously a new engine, it's a new series for you. How challenging back at the studio has it been to stay on target to get to the point that we're at now?
It's really challenging. When we define the public schedule, of course we were working from more than 1 year already on ACC. So when we defined the public schedule of releases, we made something that in our mind was really feasible in order to not stay always in crunch mode. What happened during the process is that the idea behind the AC Competizione, like I said in the press conference, was to take Assetto Corsa and improve it in any single aspect, and working with a real engine on the graphics, on the visuals, and so on. But during the process, actually we felt in love with Competizione. And each time we see that, okay, these things can be done better, we never think, okay, we will be done better in the next simulation, next year, and so on. if we can do something now, we want to do something now. And this is exactly what happened with the Competizione. That is the reason why staying in the schedule has become a challenge. And then we have also to face an issue we had, because when we included the multiplayer structure in the simulation, we saw that he was fighting in the way how he was managing the data about the drivers, the cars, and so on, with a single player part. So instead to try, at the beginning we try to, okay, let's try to stay together. But at the end we saw that it was not a good strategy, because we want to work with Assetto Corsa Competizione not just until the 1.0, we want to bring it on. And we believe that we really need a very strong basis in order to continue to grow and grow. So between Christmas period, and that should be supposed to be a restoring moment, we started to make a refactoring of some part of the core of the software. So to stay in the schedule has been a real challenge, and we arrived at the point where we struggle a bit to stay on schedule. And in fact, the 0.6 has been released with a delay of 3 weeks for the first time. Because at each release, we kept left something that was scheduled to be released. Not the content, of course, but some of the features that were scheduled. This is also the reason why we released the 0.7 version that it wasn't scheduled in the public program of releases, but since it was honestly, in our opinion, so good, we wanted to share it with the community, also because we need their feedback. And we received and we saw a lot of comments that say that, guys, the ACC changed from this to this, from 0.6 to 0.7. And people can expect the same level of growing also in the final version of the game. The simulation.
Oh, come on.
I got a ticket of €100 for each time I say game. You know why I say game? Not because it's a game, but since I am the executive producer, I always had to think and to see at the big picture where we want to involve also the casual gamers. Because we need also them. In order to make a so sophisticated and expensive simulation, we need to grow with our audience. If you tell me 2 years ago that the console version of AC1 would have sold at the same level of the Steam version, that is the PC, the most hardcore version, I would never believe it. But we need that kind of audience, because it can allow us as developers, but also the community, to get games and simulations that are more sophisticated.
And that's actually an interesting point. We've spoke about it at the Race Department podcast before, about bringing new blood and new people into the genre, into sim racing, and they maybe start off on console and then access more detailed sims and buy more hardware and whatnot. And you've touched on AC1, obviously making quite a few sales matching the Steam version, but in a much shorter space of time. Yeah. Do you envisage either a console release for ACC or some level of options and choices for the PC player to simplify the experience, to cater for different levels?
We didn't do that with AC1. That you can imagine that when we started to work on it in 2011, we never imagined that one day we would have brought it on console. When we brought AC1 on console, we saw a lot of comments of people saying they are never going to make the same kind of level of simulation because the console audience is different and so on. But the secret behind Assetto Corsa 1, or the success of Assetto Corsa 1, is because we try to make a realistic simulation. If we try to put it on a simcade level, we go in a straight competition with Forza, Gran Turismo, and so on. And I mean, they are like the Coca-Cola or the drinks and so on. It doesn't make sense for a company of 24 employed people to stay at the same level of the competition. to make the difference, we need to do things differently. So when we brought AC1 on console, we kept the same, the parity in terms of physics, handling, track accuracy, and so on. At the moment for ACC, we are straightly and 110% focused on the PC release. We are making some evaluation also for the console, but before to do that, we want to stay focused on the Steam version that will arrive in very few weeks, in the 1.0 version. And it will be just a landmark, because we are already working also for the 1.1 version of ACC that will include the upgrade, the free upgrade of the 19 season of the Assetto GT series. That means 6 or 7 new cars, 1 new truck, and we have some other surprise just under the hood that is too early to unveil. But we never stop. The console version is under evaluation, because we want to see if we can keep the same parity of level of details, the graphics, and the sounds, and of course the physics, and the parity of features. Also because it's a requirement to bring your product on console. They want that the parity in terms of features and content. And if we can do that, why not? Absolutely yes, I would say, because part of the success of AC also on PC is due to the console success, because thanks to the revenues coming from the console, in 2015, 16 and 17 we got the resources we need to purchase new licensing, content, new cars, new trucks, and to bring up the development also of the PC version. So it was good for everyone, and we want to do the same on with ACC.
So good news for console players there, which is interesting. And talking about features and development, being an early access program, obviously it's released in stages, new content, new features added to the sim through the development cycle. One of the most shouted about behind no VR, no buy, which you've covered, triple screen support. Now, when we spoke months ago, when you first announced ACC, you and Stefano, not Stefano, I've said it right this time. Hey, I'm learning. We're very clear that you're using Unreal 4, which is another party's engine, and you are, to a point, at the mercy of what they bring in terms of new features and whatnot. Where do you stand with triple screen support at the moment? Is there an appetite to do something with it? What are the limiting factors for you? And when, if we're not, maybe see it?
Well, the point, the technical point with a real engine is that each rendering you add to the scene is very demanding in terms of CPU and GPU usage. So that when you add the triple screen support, you are doing actually 3 separate renderings. And since you have 4 different levels of post-processing in the real engine, actually you are multiplying to 12 the overall post-processing work. That is huge for the performance. This is one of the first issues. The other issue is that Unreal Engine at the moment doesn't support directly the triple screen support. So that we are trying to see if we can work around it. But looks like that the new version of the Unreal Engine, the 4.22, is something is moving also on that side, because when we asked to Epic about the triple screen support, which were their schedule about it, they told us, but this was still months ago, that it wasn't one of their priorities, because actually I know that this can hear badly for the triple screen users. Actually, we appreciate it. But the triple screen users are a niche of a niche of a niche of the overall users. I mean, at least not to us, but for Epic Games that with Fortnite sells billions and billions of copies, and they don't care about the triple screen. So for them it's a matter of priority. The good news is that also thanks to Competizione, that Epic Games brought to the GDC just 3 weeks ago in San Francisco, to use it as a showcase of what can be done with their technology. So we are getting a better support now from Epic Games because they understand that also the racing games, that anyway is a niche if compared with any other kind of games and products, but is growing. And I mean, if you bring to Unreal Engine a visual like the ones we are doing with the Competizione, I think that is good to us, it's good to Epic Games. So they already asked us about our list of priorities, and it looks like that something is moving. The point is that in some way we have the goods from Unreal Engine, but we have also the cons. But it is always a compromise. I understand that some people could ask, then why you move it to Unreal Engine? Because otherwise, if the other solution would have been to recreate another time our engine in-house. That would mean to stay out from the competition for 3 years. Because with Assetto Corsa 1 we started to develop it at the end of 2010, and the early access version been released at the end of 13. After that we arrived to the 1.0 version at the end of 14, so it's 4 years in main development and other 3 years in improving it. This is a strategy that now that Assetto Corsa is a very well-known brand, we can't support anymore because of from a commercial point of view. It's something that we understand that some players or gamers will not understand it, but without the money you can't develop actually. And using the Real Engine, we have been able to close the development of AC1 at the end of 17, and 9 months later, exactly like a baby, we have been able to release the first early access version of AC Competizione. That doesn't mean that we worked on it only 9 months, because the development started on mid or late 17. But we have been able to bring at the very first stage AC Competizione in a very good shape just from the very first release, and without a Real Engine would not be simply possible. So sometimes you had to accept some compromises. Of course, when we decided to use the Real Engine, before to take the decision, we spent 3 to 4 months in R&D activities. But this is a phase where you can get many or most of the answers to the questions you can have from a developer point of view, but you don't get all the answers. So sometimes during the development you find some good surprises and you find that you have, oh really, we can do that. Oh. But I mean, you have to accept it. Is also in the same way in the motorsport, in the real motorsport, where McLaren joins with Honda, and you hope that it will be a very great marriage. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. It's never perfect, but you have to deal with it.
I think broadly speaking, people are really satisfied with how ACC is developing. It's interesting to do a single championship with the Blancpain GT series, but obviously SRO are responsible for a wide variety of different categories. Stefan Rattel was in the press conference today and he looked really pleased and really proud to be associated with the game and his series. Is there an interest and an appetite to expand wider than just Blancpain? Could ACC become an overarching title for multiple different categories? Because of course, from my point of view, I appreciate the old GTR2 style games where it's one series with limited cars, limited tracks. But some people have got used to, in sim racing, the Assetto Corsa module of lots of cars and tracks, and I'd be interested to see if you can expand upon on the SRO association, or is it just Blancpain at this stage and there's no plans to go further?
This is still an open discussion, and as you can imagine, it will also depend by the sales of ACC. Because if we see that the sales will be successful and there is some margin to improve it, I mean, when we launched the AC1, in 2013, we never imagined that at the end it would collect 180 cars. not considering the modding that is crazy. So at this stage we don't know yet. Of course, our hope is that the game, the competition will be another 100 euro, will be very successful. Of course, we are already scheduling some new projects that you can't start to think about a new project when one other stop. It's like the car production. I mean, is the same. So we are already considering some different paths about the future after ACC. Also because, as you said, in Assetto Corsa 1 we pleased a lot of people because of the huge variety of cars. And we appreciate that Competizione can please maybe the same wider audience because it's focused on the GT3. The good is that we have been able to create a product and a simulation that is very well round on that series. So that if you like the GTR racing, the GT3 racing, you can get, let's say, the perfect product for you. If you like to drive the old Fangio's Maserati, you have Assetto Corsa 1, because the two products are not in competition each other, but complete each other. What about we'll go next? We are taking in consideration different paths. Some crazy paths and some other that are much more stable. This is still part of the discussion. What Stefano Rotel said is, I agree with him. We have already some plans about what to do just after the release of ACC. Some details will be unveiled soon, TM. But we are taking in consideration some different paths that will depend also by the success of Competizione, what people will tell us. I mean, when we decided to go with the GT3, it was because, like I said in the press conference, each time we raised the poll to ask people, okay, what next? And the Formula 1 was the first one, and the GT3 was the second one. So it was a very straight choice to us, and we don't regret about it because we are very happy, and we had some very good sides about making AC Competizione that we never thought at the beginning. Like, for instance, the support we are getting from the teams, the car manufacturers, the Pirelli, for the tire model that is very, very important. So we'll see. There will be some little surprise, more or less. We are already working on the 1.1 release because at the beginning we didn't knew that 7 car manufacturers would have changed their car roster for this season. Otherwise, you will never get the update for free. Just kidding. But yeah, we have some things that we believe that people will like.
Good. All sounds very exciting. And just to wrap up, obviously it's still early access, so I hate asking these kind of questions, but people will pillar me for not doing. VR performance is quite demanding in the sim still, so there's a dramatic scope of different people's experiences. Some can get it to run smoothly, some are still struggling. Is that something that's recognised at Kunos, and is there any attention paid to that to make it a more performance-friendly experience in virtual reality?
Well, the difference, especially with AC1, is that because we use the library and the plugins and the structure of a real engine, so we depend on it. We are cooperating with Epic Games. We are making some profiling and benchmark to understand if we have some room of improvement, because we appreciate that a real engine is a demanding engine in terms of performance. So the first thing is that if you want to use a VR, you must be very strong also in terms of the hardware used for your PC, both the CPU and the GPU. Because it's very demanding. There are some workarounds we are doing about it in order to make the VR performance better, but it's still under evaluation because it's not just up to us, but it depends also by the real engine.
Yeah, because I've got a HTC Vive VR headset, and it runs really quite well. I've got a 980 Ti and then a 9 series CPU, and if you turn the few settings down, it's a reasonably strong performance. But sim racing's made for VR, isn't it? It's one of those, because you're in a static rig, it brings you in to the series. What's your take on VR and sim racing? Do you use it yourself, and is it something you enjoy?
Personally, not that much, but because of the sickness. I can't work around it, and on some tracks I really can't face it.
Oh, Rouge.
Yeah, or Rouge, or even more the North Life, because I love the North Life, so I would like to race on it in VR, but after one lap, if not less, I give up. In the studio we have a motion simulator, so that I see that it's much better when I use the VR with the motion, because it can help to reduce the sickness. But definitely I'm not that kind of guy that can drive for 2 hours with a VR. I really envy those people, but it's not my... I can't do that. But just to let you know how is important for us the VR. When we working on ACC at the beginning, we were on the 4.18 version of the Real engine. The 4.19 version of Unreal has been released just 1 month before our first early access release. And the new version was including some features that were very, very important for the VR. And we decided just 1 month before to release the first early access to move the 4.19 version. That is not just like a window update. Okay, I have to update your computer, then restart it, and that's it. It completely destroyed the game. We had a lot of glitches, crashes. The guys worked all night long to solve all the issues that the 4.19 version brought with itself. At the end, we fixed it, but just because of the VR. So it's not something that we consider, okay, yeah, let's do also the VR. The VR has been also one of the first things we taken in consideration during the R&D activity to decide if we would be able to use the Real engine, because it was just we are ready. So even before to have the cars running on the track, it was just the cars stuck on the straight of Monza, actually. But we can walk around the car on the pit lane in the VR. So it has been one of the very first things we check out to see, okay, this is feasible, we can do that. The performance in that kind of game mode were good enough, but we know, okay, we are at the start of the process, so we can improve it.
Marco, appreciate your time.